Uncharted may not have had any new releases for half a decade at this point, but it goes without saying that it remains one of the biggest and most important franchises for both Naughty Dog and Sony, and even though the series reached a bit of a natural stopping point with Uncharted 4, there's little doubt in anyone's mind that there will be more new Uncharted games down the line, with Sony having established a new AAA first-party development studio that's co-developing a new game in a, quote, beloved IP with Naughty Dog. There's plenty of speculation that maybe the next mainline Uncharted game is in the works after all, and even though it's going to be quite some time before we get concrete details on what it'll end up looking like, we all obviously have our own wish lists. To that end, here we're going to talk about a few things that we're hoping for from Uncharted 5, or whatever Sony ends up calling the inevitable Uncharted sequel. New protagonist. This is probably the most obvious point worth mentioning, so it makes sense to kick things off with it. Uncharted 4 very firmly brought Nathan Drake's story to an end, but of course there's more to Uncharted than Nate at this point. Uncharted 4's epilogue sort of makes it seem like Nate and Alina's daughter, Cassie, might end up as a playable protagonist in the future, while of course there's also the chance that Sam Drake ends up taking the lead role at some point. It goes without saying that we wouldn't exactly mind a new game with Chloe as the playable protagonist either, even though she isn't exactly going to be a new protagonist. Returning characters. Though we want the next Uncharted game to have a new playable protagonist, we don't want it to completely distance itself from its predecessors. This is a series that has built an excellent cast of supporting characters over the years, and we want to keep seeing more of them. Most series fans would agree that Sully should absolutely have some role to play in future games. The more, the better, in fact. And if we're not getting Sam, Chloe, and Nadine as protagonists, which may very well end up happening, then seeing them feature as companion characters would surely be the next best thing. Oh, and what about lesser-known fan favorites, like Charlie Cutter? Why not throw him back into the mix as well? More vehicle sections. The Uncharted series has stuck to a very specific formula over the years, but it wouldn't be fair to say that it hasn't built upon those foundations at all. Each new game has upped the ante with its bombast and action, and part of that came through vehicle sections. In Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy, for instance, being able to drive a Jeep in certain sections of both games was a highlight in both titles. Driving a boat in Uncharted 4 was also a lot of fun. Traversing wide open areas at a more relaxed pace brought a different layer to the experience. More on that in a bit as well. But a greater emphasis on vehicles also adds a great deal to set-piece sequences, as is evidenced by the Madagascar chase in Uncharted 4 and the final train chase in Lost Legacy. In conclusion, more vehicles, please. More open-world areas. We mentioned Uncharted 4 and the Lost Legacy's open-world sections, and yes, we absolutely do want more of those. Now, don't get us wrong, we don't want the next Uncharted to be an open-world game. That's not what Uncharted is about in the slightest, and a linear, focused experience with constant forward momentum is absolutely what Uncharted is supposed to be. Interspersing that linear story with larger and more open-ended areas every now and then does wonders for the pacing though, as the series has undeniably proven in the relatively recent past. We'd love to see more similar areas in the next game, maybe even mix things up with the design of those areas and have them bring unique traversal mechanics to the table. There are certainly ways to build on that style of level design without having to go too big. Further improvements to stealth. Stealth has become increasingly important in Uncharted over the years. After all, it went from being practically non-existent in the earlier entries to become a pretty important part of the gameplay loop in Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy. The next game in the series should definitely continue to build on that. No, we don't want an out-and-out stealth action title, and we definitely still want the series to keep its trademark high-octane action intact, but more refined stealth mechanics would definitely bring more depth to that experience. Maybe even something as simple as being able to go prone and crawl might turn out to be a potentially significant change. Better melee combat. Melee combat has also seen consistent improvements in Uncharted games over the years, but even so, most players will tell you that it still feels a little too button-mashy at times. It obviously goes without saying that, much like stealth, Melee isn't really the point of Uncharted, and is meant to be more of an ancillary system, but there's plenty of room for improvement there. Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy did an excellent job of blending the series' cover shooting, parkour mechanics, stealth, and melee with smartly designed areas that were more vertical in their design, and encouraged a combination of all tactics. Expanding on the melee system and making it a bit more fleshed out would only serve to improve that aspect of the experience even better. Expanded climbing mechanics. Uncharted has had its climbing and parkour mechanics down pat since day one, and with each new game the series has honed that craft further. There always has been, and continues to, a significant contingent of players out there, however, that doesn't like how one-dimensional and excessively scripted the climbing feels, and it's not hard to see their point. There's essentially no room for failure. Of course, we don't want Uncharted to turn into a platformer that emphasizes skill and timing over cinematic action, but given how crucial the climbing is to the series' core gameplay, we'd like to see it become more than essentially an interactive cutscene. More amazing set pieces. Uncharted is synonymous with set pieces. The train in Uncharted 2, the Madagascar chase, and many other unforgettable sequences have given the series a well-deserved reputation of having some of the best scripted set pieces you'll ever see in games. Saying we want more of the same might feel a bit too obvious, but, well, we do. Whoever is developing the next Uncharted game, it'll be tempting for them to give the series something of a makeover, and we obviously won't begrudge them new ideas. But those blockbuster set-piece sequences are the heart and soul of Uncharted, and that is one thing that the next game in the series absolutely shouldn't change. Co-op options. Uncharted might be known for its single-player story-driven experiences, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for anything else in there. The option to play through a new Uncharted campaign with another player would actually be a really good fit for the series. More often than not, the protagonist tends to be accompanied by at least one more character in these games, so why not give a second player the ability to play them? Multiplayer. Uncharted's PvP multiplayer might not be the main draw for the series, but it's still a big fan favorite, and has been for pretty much as long as it's been around. It helps that the series has continued to make steady improvements on that front, which, in turn, has been reflected in a growing and progressively more dedicated player base. It was a huge disappointment for many that Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection didn't have multiplayer. That was a remaster though, and our hope is that multiplayer will be back in the next mainline Uncharted title. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.